Hey, we are live. All right. Unplanned live stream. Anybody who rocks with this channel know that I do not plan my live streams. I'm very random. But when I see something interesting pop up in my news feeds, I'm inclined to respond and do a live stream. Um, all right. So just happened to be looking at Forbes, and there was a hearing on the 12th. And I guess they are Cory Booker in this hearing. He is drilling a Trump nominee, right? And he drills this guy on some comments that he's made, and he feels like this Trump nominee feels like there's a racial hierarchy. So I want to break down some of the things that have been said in this video, and let's just kind of digest it from a overall, like, what we know about American history, kind of some of these theories and how they root, and maybe even some of the root, causes of these theories, right? So let's go.
The statements that you've made before the United States Senate.
And this is
I would
just
love
fair
to
usage.
discuss some of your comments. You're going to be working with international organizations. Do you think one race is superior than another race on the planet Earth?
Senator, absolutely not.
You don't. So do you think that America would be weaker if it was, say, 40% Jewish?
Senator, absolutely not in and of itself. I think the problem...
Well, why did you qualify that?
No, well, Senator, if you let me
itself?
finish, I believe that unity, as President Trump has said, rather than diversity, is a greater strength.
But why not simply say it doesn't matter what percentage of our population is Jewish?
Senator, it certainly doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Senator, if I could finish, as somebody of Jewish origin myself, and I do want to take this moment to say, because there have been some
Okay, this is an example right off the bat. I can tell he's an Ashkenazi, right? If you follow my work, my research as of lately, I can clock almost anybody's ancestry. Just because there's, when you start looking at the patterns, a lot of people in history, even in modern times, you don't need a DNA test for us to know who the hell you are. And so on Substack, I recently wrote an article called Can Biblical Ancestry Tell Us Who Our Ancient Ancestors Are? I do recommend those of you who are curious about a topic like that to just check out that. It's on my YouTube post too. Um, I write about very sensitive topics. I'm not coming from a hateful place. I'm just coming from a lens of observation. And so I think it would be a very fascinating article for a lot of people to entertain, because I argue that if we use the table of nations from Genesis, we actually have a firm basis for understanding who people are today. And when you understand who people are, how they depicted themselves in ancient times, how they evolved over time, you will start clocking everybody. So this guy is definitely an Ashkenazi descent, Edomite, to be specific. All right. And so he's owning that, right? But he's also made what this guy Cory Booker believes to be anti-Jewish remarks. And you have to look at one of my other videos recently to understand when we talk about the self-hating Jew, right? Martin Luther was a self-hating Jew. And people argue, well, he wasn't Jewish, he was this. No, you got to understand, we're talking descent here, right? A lot of people, they associate their religion with a descent. And it makes sense for people who are Edomite descents like this guy, or Canaanite descents like most other Jews with the eagle Achilles nose, right? So check out that article that I wrote, because I think that when you start seeing the examples that I lay out, the descendants of Ham in the Bible are fixed, and you can kind of always know who they are. So when he goes, I don't have anything against Jews. I'm Jewish descent myself. We believe you. We definitely see the Ashkenazi in your face, right? But we also see you siding with a side of people who really don't include Jews in their supremacy. So that tells me that you're either a double talking demon or a self hating Jew. One or the other, this guy qualifies as one of them. He's either double talking demon or he's a self hating Jew, because there's no way that you can make anti Jewish remarks and sit up there and have Ashkenazi Edomite written all over your damn face. Pick a damn struggle. That's all I'm saying. Go ahead, Chubby. What you talking about?
Comments made. One of my weaknesses, and we've discussed some that you may think in general are weaknesses, is sometimes I take an idea too far. And I made some comments in interviews about minimizing the effect of the Holocaust that were absolutely wrong. And I'm not going to sit here and defend them here. I just want to be
Self-hater.
very, very clear on that point.
He's a
Again, had
self-hater.
I been in Germany in that time, even though I'm a sixth-generation American, but had I not, I would have been killed just like anybody else.
I've heard you say that you regret.
I'm telling you, this kind of Jewish guy is like Hitler, okay? And a lot of people were like, Hitler was Jewish. No, he wasn't Jewish. He didn't connect with those people at all. Was he a Canaanite descendant? Absolutely. You can tell by his nose, because Canaanite descendants are fixed at the nose. This dude is an Ashkenazi. Ashkenazis are Edomites, so they look like him. But at the same time, a lot of those people still are self-hating. And you look at people like Hitler, he was self-hating. He hated his lineage. He hated his lineage. He knew where he came from. And this dude knows where he came from too. So again, when you get self-haters, right, they are going to side with people that are in opposition of their people. And it could be a way for him to be safe among what he believes is a threat. We don't know. But you can't sit there and say, I'm sixth generation Jewish, whatever, but then you sit up there minimizing, talking shit about your people. This is a double talking demon. This is a double talking demon.
Some of your
But
comments.
on the flip side, his double talking demon, he's talking on what people would consider white supremacist talking points, because Cory Booker is drilling him about his idealisms of great replacement. And I want to get into that theory a little bit, because a lot of these people are scared of something, a reality happening for them that happened to a whole lot of people in mankind's history. And that's the real fear of the great replacement. But let's keep going on. What's going on? I see you,
Absolutely.
AJ. I see
Do
you,
you regret any other comments
Malachi.
about any other races?
I see you.
Senator, you would
I
have
see
to
you.
reference a certain comment, but I'm
Easier
certainly
way.
not a
I'm
perfect
sorry.
person, and I'm sure that I've
Easier
made
way,
You regret any of your
just
comments
away
about
from everybody.
Latino
Don't
Americans.
talk where everybody
Senator,
can
I'm
hear.
sure that
It
if you read
next
me every
move-
single
I don't know
comment
what
I've
you're
made
talking
about a group, there would be some that,
Elijah.
upon consideration.
So you stipulate for this body
If you're talking
that-
about these politicians, a lot of them, they just talk shit just because they trying to be in the in crowd, right? They get around a whole bunch of people that they feel like is going to elevate their career, and they just start saying shit. They don't realize that you're among snakes, and you got to watch what you say. You got to watch how you say it, and you can't just be running around saying stuff because you're trying to appeal to what you think some ignorant ass person who can elevate you want to hear, because a lot of those people are snakes. They're recording people, everything. Now you in Congress, you're before the Senate, right? And this dude is drilling you about all the things that you just said in the service of white supremacists against the Jews. And now you got to be accountable for it. And not only do you got to be accountable for what you said against the Jews, you sitting up there one your damn self. It's crazy.
that you have in your past made comments about Jews and Latinos and perhaps blacks that you perhaps regret?
Senator,
I'm telling y'all, these people are double talking demons. They are double talking demons, and some of them, they don't talk about the self-hating Jew enough, and how these motherfuckers are out here. They the real people causing anti-Semitism. They want to blame that shit on everybody else. Y'all need to start with your own damn people. Start with your own damn people. Y'all got traitors within too, just like every other race. I don't know why these people don't realize
it matters
this.
what the racial makeup of America is.
Senator,
do you believe it?
And I argue sometimes that the Edomite Jew is not as loyal to the Canaanite Jew as they're not in union. They are not in union, right? There's always going to be a supremacy among one. And I believe that the Edomite Jewish people, the Ashkenazi, they can have that because they weren't cursed with the Canaanite nose. They descend from Abraham. So they're like, we can make cute motherfuckers while y'all gotta y'all making them kids that gotta shave off the shit and modify them and shit like that. But the Edomites don't have that problem. I often wonder if this, duality of that diaspora really is, there's a supremacy within it, right? Where you have your Canaanite descendants who truly are Belial's chosen. And then you have these Edomites who converted around the Greek Empire, right? They were forced, a lot of them. Edom was forced to convert to Judaism. But many of them fled to Judah, so they converted by default. So you got a lot of descendants of Esau who fled to Judah. They converted to Judaism, right? This is how you get the lineage of the Ashkenazis, right? They don't look like Canaanites. They know they don't look like Canaanites. They don't descend from Ham. They descend from Shem. And so they can chameleon, within the white diaspora a lot easier than the Canaanite. The Canaanite is way more easier to clock. This dude, right, arguably, he has the Ashkenazi look, in terms of their facial symmetry, because even they have a clockable symmetry, right? But he also can chameleon into looking like a regular white guy. So you wouldn't even know this dude is like Jewish until he opened up his mouth. And that's the crazy thing. Like, he's out here talking cash shit about Jewish people, and he happens to be a descendant. Jewish people, y'all need to clean house too.
The racial makeup.
I think y'all threat of anti-Semitism is beyond other people. Y'all need to be looking in.
I want you to answer my question, yes or no. Does it matter what the racial makeup of America is?
Senator, I'll stand on my comment. Thank you.
What's your comment? Answer the question, yes or no.
Echoing President Trump, I believe unity rather than diversity is a strength.
So you have a problem if America grew to be more Latinos than white people?
Senator, the individual...
Here's the thing. I think the problem that a lot of people in this nation, and I'm only going to speak to foundational people in this nation, all right? We're talking, native indigenous, people, right? Those Serbian immigrants, Black people, right? And then the colonizers that came and stole their land, right? And took over their stuff and replaced them in this land, right? The same people who are afraid of replacement theory are the same motherfuckers that had a practice of doing it throughout humanity's history since ancient times. They are fearful that they are going to get their reckoning, and now these people, right, are slowly but surely eating them out of their nations. That's pretty much what it is. This is why those who call Jews have been kicked out of probably like 109 different nations throughout mankind's histories, right? Because obviously there is a pattern that certain individuals in these nations start seeing with these people. And you can't call that anti-Semitism, right? I looked up, the reason why a lot of those who call themselves Jews were kicked out of nations historically, and it was for the same damn reasons, right? And you can't really blame that on anti-Semitism when the same group of people are getting kicked out of different nations for the same damn reason, right? You can't tell people not to believe the patterns of their eyes, right? So there is that, right? And I think when you think about nations like America, though, right, I think realistically, right, this was never a white man's country. The white man came and replaced the people that were here, but this was never a white man's country. The white man came and stole on this nation just like they did every other nation in this world. Okay? And that's one. And then I think two, I just feel like the white man has never been as cunning as the Jewish man. He's never been as schemeful and conniving, and this is why they have always been able to get into the nations and infiltrate and start making a whole lot of moves to have power. White people don't scheme like that, like the royals do. But regular white people do not scheme like that. They're not bred to think like that. They are not thinking in terms of survival. A lot of these Edomite and Canaanite descendants, they do. And a lot of it is for preservation of their bloodline for the Canaanite, for sure. Not the Edomite, but for sure the Canaanite. But it's also a vying for power. Like these people are vying for power. That's basically what it is. But in terms of America, right, I always say this, right? And I always compare America to Rome. And the reason why you don't want your nation infiltrated by a bunch of free radical immigrants is because a lot of times you don't know where these immigrants' loyalties lie. That's the thing, right? Whether they're black, white, Puerto Rican, Haitian, whatever, right? No matter where they're coming from, you don't know where their loyalties lie. And the reason why Western Rome fell first is because they were letting immigrants in. And what were they trying to do? They were trying to sort of Romanize these immigrants that could give a fuck about Rome. They didn't care about Rome. They wanted opportunities in Rome. All right. And a lot of these people still had loyalties to their nations of people. And you see it in the United States government today. You see all of these immigrants who have made their way into representative roles and they are repping their nations hard. Why are we allowing these people who are representatives of the United States to be flexing their home country's flag in our government? Right? So it don't make any sense, right? And that's the kind of stuff that I think a lot of people have issue with is, it's one thing to encourage our population in so many slick ways not to have children. Because that's really what the propaganda machine, they've taken the women's movement up a notch. These broads don't want to have kids. They rather kill these kids, their babies, right? It's abort your kids, don't have kids, be a cat mom, be a dog mom, right? They making these dudes psychologically like females. So everybody in America is kind of weird and screwed up in some kind of way. But at the end of the day, we are psychologically manipulating our populations into not wanting to have families. And because of that, now we have to supplement the population issue with immigrants. Now we have to get population growth from people who have zero loyalty to this land. And the way that the Democratic Party allowed that free for all, and the Republicans were letting it happen too. We didn't have a lot of National Guard when we were having these big waves of immigrants. We did not have any type of real military attention on that. You had a couple of representatives showboating at the border, showboating in their states with the National Guard. But other than that, those people were allowed to come into this nation. Millions of them. Millions of them. And a lot of them are here. And now you get the Trump administration coming in. And the first thing they want to do is start icing they're vanilla icing everywhere. Right? Now they're trying to clean up what the Democrats did. So it's like, I'm gonna just say this. I when it comes to the great replacement theory and some of the premises behind that theory and argument, I am not going to completely agree that that is firmly founded in just white supremacist idealism. I think that if you really kind of dig into that theory and you look at the patterns of what's happening in this nation, what has happened in nations or republics like this, you will slowly start to realize that immigration definitely has gotten out of control in America in the last 30 years. Okay? In the last 30 years. I remember growing up as a kid, immigration getting into this country was so hard. It was very, very difficult to get into America, get a passport. Even when people were trying to get married, they had all kinds of little tests, to prove that they were together. They weren't just doing it there were so many barriers to become a citizen, and people hated those barriers, but it kept the country safe because you got to be a real OG criminal to go through all those barriers that they had before. Now it's like a free for all. This country is not safe, and they can't tell me that they absolutely know for sure that those large waves of immigrants coming into America in 2020, that not one of those people were terrorists. And that's kind of where, when you start thinking about the great replacement theory, it kind of gets a little deeper than just even race construct. It becomes intellectual construct. It becomes national loyalty construct, where we're letting all of these people in, right? But how many of these people actually hate our people? How many of these people actually hate this nation? Right? And that's what they did not calculate. And even these idiots at the top who have their little ideas of supremacy, right? You didn't calculate the fact that some of these people coming in might just hate specifically your group of people, specifically you. But you're making all these political, like, I'm going to piss the Republicans off, so we're going to open up America. That's the first thing Biden did with the executive order when he got it in, is basically extend the open invitation to these people south of the border. And they literally responded, because look at the influx of people that we got. Now think about the capital and the resources that the United States is spending right now. A nation that is in debt. A nation that is in debt. We got to be at least 40 trillion in debt. So they created this large ass problem that now the Trump administration is cleaning up, right? Think about how much money this all of this ICE capade shit is actually costing American taxpayers. And I don't, it just shocks me that people are not even focused on things like that. Like, they're not even thinking about things like that. And it's incredible to me. It is just incredible to me. But anyways, you guys, let me know what you think about this.
Your group is not important. This is a
cross-societal. What do you mean when you say that you believe in the great replacement theory?
Senator, thank you for that question. This refers to the intentional demographic replacement of Europeans in Europe. It was invented by Renaud Camus, who was a French scholar.
You think there's an active effort to, quote unquote, replace Americans right now?
Senator, I think the Democratic Party, through its immigration policies, has certainly
what really irritates me about Cory Booker with this line of questioning is that he knows there is an active and intentional effort to replace Americans because our birth rates are low. We need bodies in the machine of Social Security. That's on a lifeline. We need workers in this country. And because we don't have time to have a bunch of babies and watch them grow up, Hell yeah, they are bringing in immigrants. Is it with the intention of replacing Americans? I don't think so. Can they get a voting block out of these immigrants? Absolutely. Can they get some slaves out of these immigrants? Absolutely. This is why neither the Democrats or the Republicans weren't really activated with those that drove of immigrants, because they benefit from those people. They're human capital for these people, right? So I don't think the intention is I'm trying to alter the demographic of America. I think it's really like we're trying to get a voting block from these immigrants. We're trying to get some slaves, maybe some Epstein victims, maybe some organs to harvest, right? That drove shit in 2020, man. That was way more than we thought it was. Trust and believe, right? But I don't think it was necessarily to replace. I don't think it was about replace. Now, my theory on replacement, so my great replacement theory has nothing to do with nations, in terms of nations of people like America. I believe in the great replacement theory when it comes to a specific group among humanity who has made it their mission to infiltrate bloodlines. I believe in that. I believe that there has been people who have had an intent to infiltrate the bloodlines of people. And so that's the great replacement, or the low key replacement in my mind, that I can see the patterns of. Because when I look at every nation of people, there is a reoccurring signature that pops up, and it tells me that the great replacement is definitely cultural, is definitely more bloodline than it even is about national sovereignty. That's just my opinion, and I'm being very, very ambiguous because, as you can see, my live streams are already suppressed by a lot of them folks.
Shown signs of that.
And I don't understand that. So you are saying that if more Americans are Black or Latino Americans, that somehow weakens America because it puts whites in a minority.
Senator, I never said anything like that, nor do I actually believe that. I want to be very clear that regardless of country, if people generally share more in common,
Can I read you what you've said? Because it sounds like this. You said the great replacement is real, and they are going to try to make you pay for it. Who is they?
Senator, thank you for that question. I simply don't know from you reading that one isolated comment.
So this is the problem. You make the most incendiary comments that you admit that you regret about Jews, about Latinos, about Blacks. And you sit here and say that you do not have a worldview, that somehow our country is weakened based upon the populations of each. In fact, you say in your writings that it is a threat to the United States of America and create an us versus them. And the only interpretation I can have of us versus them is it's white people against others, which sounds deeply racist to me. That somehow you think our country's greatness depends upon its ethnic diversity, as long as white people have more numbers than others. That does not sound like a nation that was founded with the belief that all people are created equal and equal before the eyes of God. It sounds like you have a racial hierarchy. There's no...
All people are not equal before the eyes of God. I don't know who said that, but all people are not equal before the eyes of God. Why do you think some people are going to be destroyed? You know, God looks at people as righteous and unrighteous, you know? So, you know, I don't know who is telling people this lie or who told America this lie. Maybe everybody's equal under the God of America, which is Satan, the devil, right? And don't we know this nation is run by Satan, right? We got to give it up to our, PDF file protectors in government, right? Only a Satanist would protect a child abuser, right? And yet people in our government are doing it, you know? And, I'm glad that more people are doing content on the Canaanites. I'm glad that more people are digging into the word, kind of understanding these Canaanites a little bit better, and they're understanding who the Canaanites were, right? The Canaanites were wicked people. They were wicked, wicked, wicked people. Sodom and Gomorrah was, now remember, Canaan, right? He settled in the Levant, right? Jordan is part of the Levant, right? And Sodom and Gomorrah was actually in that Jordan region, but those were Canaanites. The people of Sodom and Gomorrah were descendants of Canaan. These people are wicked, right? You read about these people, they sacrifice their children in burning fires. They sacrifice them to demonic gods, Moloch, Baal, right? In ritual sacrifice, but it was more than that. Like, people got to realize that these people are not just sacrificing their children to what we perceive, because we don't believe what they believe. We don't tap into what they tap into. We don't do ritual or divination, what they do, right? So we just look at an image of Moloch or Baal and we're like, this looked like a wicked ass demon thing. I don't want to have anything to do with it, right? But again, if you are a believer and if you are a person that say, okay, I read the Dead Sea Scrolls, I read the Bible, and I believe that, those writings were accurate, right? The book of Enoch was found with those scrolls, right? And when you go into Enoch, right, it tells you, right, that there was war on this earth with those dinosaurs that people marvel so much in these museums, at those were real. Those are real beings that were on earth because they were products of falling angels mating with wicked women. All right. But they were warring with these things, but it tells you that they were separated from their spirit, right? You have a lot of people say Nephilim exists today. Well, if you want to talk about the dinosaur fossils, I mean, yeah, I guess you could say they exist today. They're in your museums, right? But the actual spirits of the Nephilim, they only exist beyond our eye, because the book of Enoch says that they were stripped of their spirits to roam on the earth among mankind, and that they would contribute to a lot of the wickedness on earth. A lot of people, they call it hidden knowledge. You may even see some infomercials about ancient secrets, hidden knowledge, right? That shit ain't hidden, right? It really isn't hidden, right? You're really tapping into those spirits because they have always been here. They helped the Sumerians build their civilization because they practiced those divinations, right? A lot of people practice divinations and incantations that allows them to tap into these unholy spirits. But these spirits are bougie, right? You could take an average devil worshiper or any of these dark arts worshipers, right? And you can ask them, okay, you've been practicing for 5 and 10 years. Have you ever, like, literally, not where you psyched yourself out, have you ever gained real knowledge that empowered you from one of these wicked spirits, right? If they're honest with you, they're going to tell you no, because you can tell they're a loser in their life right now. We know they did not help you, right? But a lot of these wicked spirits, they respond in sacrifice, with sacrifice and ritual. And for them, their holiest of sacrifice is a child. So it's like kind of so below as below, so below as, what is it? As below, whatever the Satanists say, right? Right? Because they're mimicking God, they're copying God, right? If children are precious to Him, they are repulsive to them. They are nothing to them. They are just sacrifices. So you get people, Canaanite descendants like Jeffrey Epstein, a lot of these people who are intertwined in these cabals, right? These are not just Satan worshipers, right? They're not just Satan worshipers. These people are full blown in sacrifice, in ritual. And a lot of this collateral that Jeffrey Epstein was probably getting on a lot of these politicians, rising star, rising this was collateral so that they can control them. And they were probably having these people do the most profane things. Like, I bet you if a lot of these celebrities were honest that about their longevity, it's going to involve something dealing with harming a child. Maybe they don't know, maybe they know about it, but these people are demonic. They're demonic. So when you look at these Jeffrey Epstein's files, look at his damn nose, first of all, and you're going to see Edomite eyes and a Canaanite nose. He's an Edomite and a Canaanite descendant. And I'm saying he is because I don't know if he's dead or not. You know, these people are highly deceptive because they're the lineage of evil. All right? A lot of these people know that they are the lineage of evil. They know they are the cursed group among humanity. And they really act upon that shit. So, anyways, you guys, let me know what you think about Cory Booker drilling this guy about the great replacement theory and him making comments about replacing the demographics in America. I'm going to say this. The dude is not off if he's not coming from a lens of white supremacy. And he really can't come from a lens of white supremacy because he's an admitted Jewish man passing, talking shit about his own damn people. Right, but in a large sense, you got to look at America like the Roman Republic. Rome brought in a lot of immigrants, which eventually led to the collapse of Rome. And the reason why it led to the collapse of Rome is because none of those immigrants cared about the Republic. They didn't care about the sovereignty or the longevity of Rome. And so they came in, they infiltrated, and the empire crumbled from within. And so I think a lot of people can take lessons from history. And sometimes, when people are talking great replacement, sometimes it's not necessarily about the ratio of black to white and this to that people. It's about how many of these people are Americans and why are we, prohibiting birth rates, like we have low birth rates, and we're replacing our population with people from other nations. And even if America was founded on immigrants and colonizers and stuff, it's like, why continue the trend? Why continue the trend? So I definitely do believe that we need to vet more in our immigration process. We should not just be bringing people in that can be paid and leveraged, because that's basically what I think America has done in the last, especially the last 5 years. There were people brought in to be leverageable assets. And I don't think that they were brought in to be leverageable assets in the service of Americans. I think that a lot of these people have been brought in to be leverageable assets against Americans. And so I do think that it's not coming from a place of racism if a person believes that somehow the demographics of this country is being eerily replaced. And considering the fact that you got demons like Jeffrey Epstein and the likes of him who are in other countries breeding, motherfuckers. Y'all, we got to touch on everything that's going on with Epstein. This dude is a breeder, right? He's a Habsburg. He is a breeder. He wanted his disgusting Canaanite blood across every fucking race. And I'm sorry, that is the weakest bloodline in humanity. So the fact that he was intentionally spreading his particular seed to other cultures or people, weakening those bloodlines, that tells you that he was nothing but wicked. He was the wickedest of the wicked of the lineage of evil. So I'm not surprised of any of this stuff with Epstein, even the government hiding it, concealing it, protecting it, because this nation is run by Satan's chosen people and they're lemmings. Trump is a lemming. Donald Trump is absolutely a lemming. He is not the man. Some Zionist behind the Wizard of Oz curtain is the man of this country. That man is not. He's not. I don't care how many things that they want to rename after Trump. He's just, it's like Bad Bunny. It's literally like Bad Bunny, right? They're doing everything they can to overprop Bad Bunny in everybody's faces. Look at our Puerto Rican Canaanite descendant, everybody. Look at our Puerto Rican Canaanite descendant. Bad Bunny is a case study of how the Canaanites infiltrate other races and groups. Seriously, look at that man. If he doesn't have the Canaanite face in a Puerto Rican man's body, you can't tell me. Y'all check out my article. Check out my article. Can biblical ancestry help us know who our ancient ancestors were? I argue that it can. And if you start looking at the, trends and patterns in antiquities, you will start knowing. I've clocked this shit so much. Like, I've literally just been obsessing on just ancestry that I can look at a lot of people now and I can actually break down like the influences, the recurring influences in their face, their face symmetry, their eyes, right? You can actually see the recurrences of ancient ancestors in a lot of people. Now, when it gets to like white people, it gets a little shaky, but if you know what you're looking for, they reoccur too. They reoccur too. Even the white people have a nose style that reoccurs for their ancient people, right? Like Thomas Massey, I'm pretty sure that dude got to trace some of his ancestry to Iceland, right? Because if you go back and you look at some of the Icelandic kind of depictions of those people themselves, that reoccurring, you start to see that pattern. He looked just like them folks. So he might, be a descendant of those Icelandic people. But anyways, you guys, let me know what you guys think about the Great Replacement. Do you think that, this guy had a point in some of his statements that America, has obviously had some replacement going on with the infiltration of these immigrants that they kind of just let into the country with very little vetting, right? Is this a statement that's being fully rooted out of white supremacy, especially coming from a guy that says that he's Jewish? Let me know. Anyways, you guys, let me get off because I'm coming up on an hour. Thanks to those who tuned in. I'm a very small channel. I'm a very suppressed channel because I really just kind of call things how I see them, and I just speak off the top of my head about these observations. But it's a lot of other messy stuff going on in the world today. I don't really care about some of those stuff. But let me give it up to Thomas Massey for a second, though. Thomas Massey. I did not recognize that guy. I saw Thomas Massey recently. I saw this guy and it said Thomas Massey, right? And I'm like, that's not the nerdy guy that I used to seeing. And so then I had to do a Google search. And I'm looking and I'm like, somebody gave Thomas Massey a makeover. Okay? That man is looking good. He looking KFC good. It's like they gave him some good seasoned fried chicken and a black woman. And he woke up and was like, I am that guy. Hell yeah, I'm that guy. I'm that guy and I'm going to go against Trump. Thomas Massey, they did something to that man. But he looking good. Shout out to Thomas Massey. They literally, turned him into like Colonel Sanders' little nephew, hot little nephew. We see you, Thomas Massey. We see what you do. He still got that little geeky voice, though, right? He need more sessions with his black woman, right? But we'll get some bass in that voice for you, bro. But anyways, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Love your neighbor as yourself. If you would not disrespect or abuse yourself, do not disrespect or abuse your neighbors. And remember, there is no room in a civil society for pedophiles.